Now let me tell you something real. A lot of people think if a man misses you, he's going to pick up that phone and send a message that says, "I miss you." That sounds good in movies, but real life don't work like that. See, when a man secretly misses you but refuses to text, it's not because he doesn't care. It's because there's a war going on inside him. One side is his heart, and the other side is his pride. And pride, oh, pride is loud. Silence doesn't mean absence of feelings, and that's where a lot of people get it twisted. See, when a man goes quiet, everybody assumes he stopped caring. They think if he really felt something, he'd say something. But that ain't always true. Some men don't go silent because their heart is empty. They go silent because their heart is too full and they don't know what to do with what they're feeling. Silence for a man is often a hiding place. It's where he goes when emotions start asking questions he's not ready to answer. You have to understand how men are wired. From a young age, they're taught to control, not confess. They're praised for being strong, not vulnerable. So when feelings show up that make them feel exposed, uncertain, or afraid of rejection, their first instinct isn't to reach out, it's to pull back. That quiet you feel, that's him trying to get his emotions under control. He's telling himself, don't text. Don't say nothing. Stay cool. Meanwhile, his mind is loud, replaying conversations, remembering your laugh, wondering what you're doing, and imagining things he'll never admit out loud. Silence also shows up when a man is scared of the outcome. He misses you, but he doesn't know if you miss him. He wants to reach out, but he's afraid you won't respond the way he hopes. That fear makes him freeze. So instead of risking rejection, he chooses distance. Not because he doesn't care, but because caring makes him vulnerable, and vulnerability feels dangerous to him. Silence becomes his shield. Another truth is this: when a man truly doesn't care, there's no struggle. He doesn't think about texting you. He doesn't debate it. He doesn't fight the urge. He just moves on. But when silence is heavy, when it lingers, when it feels intentional, that's often a sign of internal conflict. He's feeling something, but he's trying to convince himself not to. That kind of silence takes effort. It's not passive, it's active restraint. Sometimes silence is also about pride. A man may feel like he already showed interest once, and he doesn't want to be the one who always reaches out. He tells himself, if you care, you'll text first. So he waits. Every hour feels longer than it should. Every notification makes his heart jump. Silence becomes a test, even though he never told you there was an exam. So when you experience silence, don't rush to assume it means nothing. Sometimes it means too much. Sometimes it means emotions are present but unspoken, hidden behind fear, pride, and confusion. Silence doesn't erase feelings. Often it protects them. Men don't always express longing the way people expect, especially when words feel risky. When a man misses you but refuses to text, his feelings leak out through his actions, his habits, and the small choices he makes every day. Men are often more comfortable doing than saying. So instead of sending a message that exposes his emotions, he finds quieter, indirect ways to stay connected to you without having to admit what's really going on in his heart. You'll notice he suddenly becomes very aware of your presence, even from a distance. He watches your social media closely, sometimes faster than people who openly talk to you. He may react to things you post in subtle ways, a quick like, a view, a random emoji that means nothing on the surface, but everything underneath. Those small gestures are his compromise. They let him feel close without risking a full emotional conversation. It's his way of saying, I'm still here, without having to say, I miss you. A man who misses you also finds reasons to cross your path. He might show up in places he knows you go, or suddenly remember things you mentioned weeks ago and bring them up casually. He asks mutual friends about you, but frames it like curiosity instead of concern. He keeps himself informed about your life while pretending he's not paying attention. That effort alone tells you something. People don't invest energy into what they no longer care about. Another way missing you shows up is through timing. When you do reach out, he responds quickly, sometimes too quickly, like he was already holding the phone. He stays up later than usual, especially at night when defenses are down and emotions get louder. Late hours are dangerous for men who are trying not to feel, because that's when memories creep in. That's also when he's most tempted to text, but most likely to stop himself at the last second. His emotions may also show up as inconsistency. One day he seems distant. The next day he's overly friendly or joking too much. Humor becomes a mask. Confidence becomes a cover. Men often use personality shifts to hide emotional discomfort. When he misses you, he may act like everything is fine on the outside while feeling unsettled on the inside. That inner tension has to go somewhere, and it often comes out as mixed signals. You might also notice he talks about you indirectly. He references things you like, music you shared, jokes only the two of you understand. He may post quotes or songs that feel targeted, hoping you recognize yourself in them. That's not accidental. It's a way of communicating without direct contact, a way of releasing emotion while protecting his ego. What's important to understand is that these actions require effort. Indifference doesn't require effort. Forgetting doesn't require strategy. But staying silent while still staying connected takes emotional energy. It means he's thinking, resisting, checking himself, and managing feelings he hasn't resolved. Men don't do that for someone who means nothing. When a man misses you, even in silence, his behavior tells the story his words refuse to tell. Pride and fear are two powerful forces that control a man's behavior. When emotions are involved, especially when he misses someone but refuses to reach out. A lot of men don't avoid texting because they don't care. They avoid it because sending that message feels like surrender. In his mind, texting first means admitting that you still have power over his emotions, and that scares him. Pride tells him to stay quiet, to look strong, to appear unaffected, even when his heart is doing the opposite. Fear plays an even bigger role than pride, but men don't like to admit that. He's afraid of being rejected, afraid of looking desperate, afraid that you've moved on and his message will remind him of what he lost. So instead of facing those possibilities, He chooses silence. Silence gives him control over the outcome. If he doesn't text, he doesn't have to deal with disappointment. But that safety comes at a cost because the feelings don't disappear, they just get buried. Inside, there's a constant debate happening. One voice says, just text her, it's not that deep. The other voice says, don't do it, protect yourself. That back and forth can last days, weeks, sometimes longer. He writes messages in his head he'll never send. He imagines how the conversation might go, how you might respond, and how he'd feel afterward. That mental rehearsal is exhausting, and it's a clear sign that he cares more than he's willing to show. Men are also conditioned to believe they should have emotional control at all times. So when missing you makes him feel off balance, he resents the feeling. He gets frustrated with himself for still thinking about you. Instead of leaning into the emotion, he tries to suppress it. Silence becomes his way of regaining control, even though it doesn't bring him peace. It just creates distance between what he feels and what he allows himself to express. There's also the fear of reopening something he's not ready to fix. Texting you might lead to a conversation about feelings, boundaries, or the past. If he doesn't know what he wants or doesn't have the tools to communicate properly, avoiding contact feels easier. He tells himself he'll reach out when he's ready, not realizing that readiness often comes through communication, not before it. Sometimes pride shows up as a test. He convinces himself that if you really care, you'll reach out first. That belief allows him to stay silent while still feeling justified. Every day you don't text becomes proof that staying quiet was the right move, even though part of him hoped you would. This kind of thinking keeps both people stuck, missing each other in silence. What's important to understand is that a man who truly doesn't care doesn't wrestle with these emotions. He doesn't fear texting. He doesn't debate it. He doesn't feel the need to protect his pride because nothing is at risk. When pride and fear are present, it means something matters. Silence, in this case, isn't the absence of feeling. It's the result of too many feelings colliding at once. When a man misses you but refuses to text, he still looks for ways to stay connected without exposing his heart. He may not show up directly in your messages, but he shows up around you in the background of your life. This is how many men manage emotional attachment while protecting their ego. They want closeness, but only at a distance that feels safe. So instead of words, they choose indirect presence. You'll notice he suddenly becomes more aware of your routine. He remembers details you mentioned casually, things you never thought he was listening to. He brings them up later like it's nothing, but it's not nothing. It means you're still on his mind. He might comment on things that feel random to you, but to him they're connections, threads that keep him tied to you without requiring an emotional confession. Another way this shows up is through digital behavior. He watches, but he doesn't speak. He views your stories quickly, sometimes every single one. He reacts without reacting, staying visible but silent. This is his compromise. It lets him feel close while avoiding vulnerability. Silence with presence is very different from disappearance. Disappearing means detachment. Presence without words means emotional restraint. He may also create accidental interactions. A casual text about something unrelated, a reply to a group chat, a comment that doesn't open the door too wide. These small touches are intentional. They allow him to test the emotional temperature without committing to a full conversation. He's checking to see if the door is still unlocked, even if he's not ready to walk through it. Sometimes his need for connection shows up as emotional inconsistency. One moment he seems cold, the next he's warm and familiar. That's not manipulation, that's confusion. He's trying to balance missing you with protecting himself. When the feeling gets too strong, he pulls back. When distance becomes too heavy, he moves closer again. This push and pull is exhausting, but it's also revealing. You may also notice he talks about you indirectly to others. Mutual friends mention that your name came up in conversation. He asks how you're doing, but disguises it as casual interest. He wants updates, reassurance, and some sense that you're okay without him, even though that truth might hurt. Still, he can't help himself. Missing you makes curiosity unavoidable. All of this takes effort. None of it is accidental. People who don't care don't monitor, don't check in quietly, don't hover on the edges of someone's life. Indirect connection is still connection. It's a man trying to hold on without risking rejection, trying to feel close without admitting how much he feels. When a man misses you but refuses to text, timing becomes his loudest confession. He may not send the message, but pay attention to when he shows up. Timing never lies. A man who doesn't care moves randomly. A man who misses you moves intentionally, even in silence. You'll notice he appears at the exact moments you're most likely to be thinking: late nights, quiet mornings, emotional hours when distractions fade and feelings get heavy. Late at night is when his guard is lowest. That's when the pride is tired and the fear isn't as loud. He's scrolling, thinking, replaying moments, wondering what you're doing. He's one tap away from texting you, and sometimes you can feel it. That's why you might suddenly see him online at odd hours, watching stories, liking something old, or posting something that feels personal. That's not random. That's him missing you when the world is quiet and his thoughts have nowhere to hide. When you do reach out, the speed of his response tells the truth. He replies faster than someone who's busy should, sometimes almost instantly. That's because he was already there, already waiting, already thinking about you. Men don't keep their phone close for people they're indifferent about. Fast replies without initiation are a clear sign of suppressed emotion. He didn't want to start the conversation, but he desperately wanted it to happen. You may also notice he appears during emotional moments in your life, right when you're overwhelmed, uncertain, or nostalgic. He somehow shows up. That's intuition mixed with attachment. Even without talking, there's a connection that pulls him toward you at certain times. Missing someone creates patterns. He doesn't show up at random hours. He shows up when the heart is loudest. Timing also shows up in absence. He disappears right when things start to feel too real, when conversations get deeper, when emotions rise. That's when he pulls back. Not because he doesn't care, but because caring is starting to scare him. The same man who replies fast will suddenly go quiet after a meaningful exchange. That's him trying to regain control after letting himself feel something. Holidays, anniversaries, special dates hit him harder than he admits. He remembers, he feels it. He may not say anything, but he's thinking about you more than usual on those days. That's when silence feels heavier. That's when missing you becomes unavoidable, even if he refuses to acknowledge it out loud. Men who don't miss you don't track time like this. They don't notice patterns. They don't feel emotional waves based on the hour or the moment. But a man who misses you is affected by timing. Certain songs, certain hours, certain memories pull him right back to you. And even if he never texts, his presence at those moments tells the story his words won't. So don't just listen for messages. Watch the timing. Watch when he appears, when he reacts, when he retreats. Timing is the language of a man who misses you but is still fighting himself. When a man misses you but refuses to text, the real battle happens where nobody sees it. Behind closed doors, when he's alone with his thoughts, that's where the truth lies. Men don't talk about this part, but it's heavy. He puts on a face for the world, like everything is fine, but the moment the noise dies down, your name shows up in his mind uninvited. He didn't ask for it, but it's there. He tries to distract himself. He stays busy. He works longer hours, scrolls longer, keeps the TV on, just so there's no silence. Because silence reminds him of you. It reminds him of conversations he enjoyed, moments he didn't appreciate enough, things he should have said but didn't. And the more he tries not to think about you, the louder the memories get. That's when missing you becomes emotional pressure instead of a simple feeling. Men process emotions internally before they ever show them externally. So while it looks like he's unbothered, inside he's questioning himself. He wonders why you still affect him. He tells himself he should be over it by now. He compares new people to you even when he swears he's moved on. And nobody ever measures up, not because you were perfect, but because you were real to him. There's frustration in that struggle. He gets annoyed at himself for caring. He doesn't like feeling emotionally exposed, especially if things didn't end clean, or he doesn't know where he stands with you. So instead of reaching out and risking a conversation he can't control, he chooses silence. Silence feels safer than honesty, but safety doesn't bring peace. It just delays the inevitable feelings he hasn't dealt with yet. At night, it hits harder. That's when his defenses are lowest. That's when he replays moments, reads old messages, and wonders if you think about him too. He may even start typing a message, then stop. Not once, but many times. He deletes it because sending it would mean admitting that you still matter. And that admission feels like weakness to him. Even though it's actually courage, he may talk to himself about you, but never out loud. He justifies his silence by telling himself it's for the best or there's no point. But deep down, he knows the real reason is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of reopening emotions, fear of hearing something he's not ready to accept, so he stays quiet and carries the weight alone. This emotional struggle doesn't show up in big dramatic ways. It shows up in mood shifts, quiet moments, and unresolved tension. He laughs with friends but feels distant. He succeeds at work but feels unsettled. Missing you becomes a background emotion, always there, never fully addressed. Men don't often admit this, but missing someone without reaching out is exhausting. It takes effort to suppress feelings. It takes strength to pretend you're unaffected when you're not. And when a man is doing all that, it's because what he felt with you was real enough to disturb his inner balance. That kind of struggle doesn't come from nothing.